Hello students, welcome to the class. In the last session of microeconomics, we studied about the law of equimarginal utility, which is the extension of law of diminishing marginal utility. In law of diminishing marginal utility, we studied that as a consumer goes on consuming the units of a commodity, the utility which he derives from every additional unit goes on diminishing. So this was about marginal utility. Marginal utility is the utility which you derive with every additional unit. Okay. Okay, so we spoke about law of DMU. Apart from that, we spoke about the extension of law of DMU, which is called as the law of equimarginal utility. It is also called as law of maximum satisfaction. It is also the Gauss's second law. So there were different names given to this particular law. In law of equimarginal utility, we studied that a consumer does not buy only one product from the market, he buys multiple products from the market. So if he is buying multiple products from the market who have different prices, with his fixed amount of income, how is he going to spend this X amount of income on these goods so that he maximizes his satisfaction? So this was what we studied. So in law of equimarginal utility, we derived a equation which was marginal utility of product A upon price of product A will be equal to marginal utility of price of B. Marginal utility of B upon price of B will be equal to marginal utility of product C upon price of C, and so on and so forth, which will be equal to marginal utility of money. So this was the derivation, this was the conclusion that we derived from the law of equimarginal utility. Then we also studied the assumptions of the law, the criticisms of the law. All of these things were a part of law of equimarginal utility. Some of you all might have studied this previously. Some of you all might be studying it for the first time. So people who are facing difficulties when studying it for the first time can write to me anytime on my mail ID so that I can clarify their doubts. Okay, so today we are going to start with a new session with a new topic, with a little different topic than what we have been studying. So far we were talking about utility and its related concepts. Now I'm going to take you to some different approach altogether. We were only stuck with cardinal approach. The meaning of cardinal, we said that utility can be measured cardinally and ordinally. If you tell me what is the difference between cardinally and ordinally, you can say that in cardinally we can measure utility in numbers, whereas in ordinal approach we do not measure utility in numbers. We already know that utility is a psychological concept. It differs from person to person. One of the drawbacks of measuring utility cardinally was that it cannot be measured in numbers. However, we are assuming it to be measured in numbers. Now we are going to look after the ordinal approach of utility. We are done with cardinal approach. In cardinal approach, you studied two laws. One law was about DMU. The other law was about law of equimarginal utility. So these two laws we have already covered. Now we are going to study about the ordinal approach. So utility is based on assumptions that cardinal measurement is possible. Yes, we spoke about that. However, it is not practicable. It is not at all practical that I equate the utility which I get by consuming a product with the other person who is getting the utility by consuming the similar or different product. So it is not possible. I ask you, how good are you feeling by eating an ice cream? You'll say, ma'am, very good. But I ask you that you tell me how good are you feeling in with by eating this ice cream. You'll tell me, ma'am, out of 10 I should tell you, out of 100, out of 1000, what is the base, what is the standard out of which I should tell you. So this depends from person to person. Someone will say 5 on 10, someone will say 7 on 10, someone will tell 9 on 10. Why? Because again I'm repeating my sentence that it is a psychological concept. It differs from person to person, and you cannot measure something that is giving you utility. Okay, you cannot measure utility in numbers. It is a kind of satisfaction, it is a kind of experience that you're feeling, and it is difficult to measure it in numbers. The next part that we have to study is there is hardly any measure available by which to gauge the absolute satisfaction that we get from consumption of goods. So what then? What next? If we cannot measure it in numbers, then how do we understand the concept of utility? That's how this topic is come into picture, which is the ordinal approach of utility. So in ordinal approach of utility, you're going to study a very important concept which is called as the indifference curve. Looking at the word indifferent, okay, you can make out it is indifference curve. That means I am indifferent about anything. Like if you ask me, I as a teacher, I am indifferent about the students who are sitting in my class. For you, for me, all of you all are same. So I do not give importance to one, and I will not give importance to the other. No, it does not happen that ways. For me, all of you all are same. Similarly, for a consumer, if you shift your perspective and understand this concept with the perspective of a consumer, you say that the consumer is indifferent about what goods he is consuming. The consumer is indifferent about what goods he is consuming. Now, this statement you will not immediately understand what I said. So let us go into the details and try to understand. It is a graph showing different bundles of goods which a consumer is indifferent about. Okay, so let us look at this graph. Now, in indifference curve, the very first thing you have to understand is it is a curve which will show you combinations of two goods. It is a curve which will show you combination of two goods. So if you see this one curve, which is IC1, so IC1 has different combinations of goods. IC1 has different combinations of goods X and good Y, different units of good X and good Y, which I'll call as combination 1. The consumer is indifferent about these combinations as long as it is lying on one particular indifference curve. So in IC1, I am having the same level of satisfaction. Then I draw IC2, which is a little higher level of satisfaction. Then I draw IC3, which is again a higher level of satisfaction. So basically, what do I understand? I understand that an indifference curve is a combination of two different goods, okay, which is giving me some amount of satisfaction. As I move towards the right, the level of satisfaction increases. As I move towards the left, the level of satisfaction decreases. Now let us look at this schedule and this graph in detail. I have been given two goods. One is bananas, the other one is biscuits. Okay, and there are different combinations which are framed. So combination A, combination B, combination C, combination D, and combination E. So there are 5 combinations which are prepared. I have to plot these 5 combinations on an indifference curve. So there is only one indifference curve which is given, which is IC. Okay, so I am plotting these combinations on this IC. Now, the consumer is indifferent about these combinations. What do I mean by this word? I mean that the level of satisfaction that he is going to get from A will be equal to the level of satisfaction that he gets from B, C, D and E. So on one indifference curve, he is going to get the same level of satisfaction from different combinations. To make our life simpler, we take two goods, good A and good B. So if you see good A is biscuits, good B is bananas. So if he is purchasing one good and he is purchasing the other good also, he has to make different set of combinations so that the utility that he gets from every combination remains the same. Now in case of numbers, if you see in numbers, biscuits have one, supposing it is one biscuit, so one biscuit and 12 bananas is combination A. Two biscuits and 8 bananas is combination 2 or second or B. 3 biscuits and 5 bananas is combination C. 4 biscuits and 3 bananas is combination D, and 5 biscuits and 2 bananas is combination, that is combination E. So these are different combinations which are given to you. Okay. Now what do you observe in this table? If you see this table, see this schedule very carefully, you observe that as and when I am increasing the units of biscuits, as and when I am increasing the units of biscuits, I am giving up on the units of bananas. I repeat, as and when I am increasing the units of biscuits, I am giving on, I am giving away, I am letting go the units of bananas. This, my dear students, is nothing but marginal rate of substitution, which means if a consumer is increasing the units of one product, he will let go the units of other products. So if I have to increase the units of bananas, I will let go the units of bananas so that I will get the amount of satisfaction which will be equal to the other combinations that I am getting. So A, B, C, D, E is going to give me the same satisfaction as they lie on a particular indifference curve. They are lying on this indifference curve and they are giving me the same level of satisfaction. I hope you all have understood this schedule. Now, if you've understood this schedule very nicely, if you've understood this graph very nicely, you can move on to the next part, which is properties of indifference curve. Now, what do you mean by properties of indifference curve? In properties of indifference curve, you have to understand what are the traits, what are the characteristics of indifference curve. How will you come to know about the characteristics, the traits? Through the diagram and through the schedule. This is the first property. What do you see here? You see that it is downward sloping from left to right. So the indifference curve slopes downward from left to right. Why? Because one variable is increasing, the other variable is decreasing. Now in this case, what variable I am talking about? The units of one product are increasing and the units of other product are decreasing. As there is a inverse relation between the two, you get a curve which is downward sloping from left to right. This is the first point. Let us look after the second point. What is the second point? It is convex to the point of origin. Where is the point of origin? The point of origin is your top part. Okay, so your indifference curve is convex to the origin. Why is it called as convex? It is called as convex because of the marginal rate of substitution. It is convex to the origin because of the marginal rate of substitution. What is marginal rate of substitution? As the consumer is increasing one unit of a commodity, he is letting go the other units of a commodity. So in this case, you see that he is increasing biscuits from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. Per unit he is increasing. But what do you see in the case of bananas? He gave up 4 units, he gave up 3 units, he gave up 2 units and he gave up 1 unit. So the giving up rate is higher than the increasing rate. Okay, that is why we get this concept of marginal rate of substitution. That is why we got this curve to be convex to the origin. Now let me tell you all what is the formula for MRS, which is marginal rate of substitution. So if I have to consider combination biscuits and bananas, if biscuits is x and bananas is y, x and y, then I get marginal rate of substitution of x and y to be the derivative of y upon the derivative of x, d of y upon d of x, which is also equals to mu of x upon mu of y. What is mu of x? Mu of x is marginal utility of x. What is mu of y? That is marginal utility of y. Now you do not have to remember the formula in any which ways. However, this is the additional information that I gave you. Okay. So we did the second point, that it is convex to the origin, point of origin. The third one is very important point, which is indifference curve never intersect each other. Now intersecting means what? Intersecting means one indifference curve is cutting the other indifference curve. So when you see your IC1 will cut IC2, it will become that they are intersecting each other. When they intersect at a point, you can say that IC1 is equals to IC2. That means whatever combinations I have made from IC1 will be equal to whatever combinations I have made to IC2. But that is not possible. Why is it not possible? Because one particular indifference curve will give me the combination of all the satisfactions I am going to get from it is going to give me all the combinations of different goods which are going to give me the same level of satisfaction. So IC1 has different combinations A, B, C, D, E, which are giving me the same level of satisfaction. IC2 is greater than IC1. IC2 is greater than IC1. So if it is greater, it can never intersect IC1. Why? Because IC1 is smaller than IC2. So the third point is indifference curve will never intersect each other. They will be never equal to each other. Since they will be never equal to each other, they will never intersect each other. Higher the indifference curve indicates higher satisfaction. We've already spoken about this point in indirect ways. As I'm moving to the right, the indifference curve goes on becoming more and more, which means the satisfaction level tends to rise. So higher indifference curve indicates higher level of satisfaction. Also, you have to remember that indifference curve will neither touch the x-axis nor the y-axis. It is a very basic thing that nor at the top portion of the indifference curve nor the bottom portion of the indifference curve will touch either of the axes. How? Supposing I consider that it is touching the x-axis. If it touches the x-axis, that means biscuits somewhere is becoming 0. If it touches the y-axis, it means bananas is becoming 0. The number of bananas is becoming 0. But then again, our indifference curve definition will fail in this case if it becomes 0. If one of the units of the commodities becomes 0. So they will neither touch the x-axis, they will neither touch the y-axis. It cannot be 0 as the definition will not stand true. In indifference curve, you have to take combination of different goods. So you cannot do your indifference curve only with one good. You need two goods or more than two goods. So therefore, it will neither touch x-axis nor it will touch y-axis. They need not be parallel to each other. So indifference curve need not be parallel to each other, as this point is moreover dependent or is moreover related to point number 4 in the PPT, because as we go higher the indifferences curve, the level of satisfaction also tends to become higher. Again, I will repeat the properties of indifference curve. There are basically 6 properties that you need to know. First was about indifference curve slopes from left to right. Why did I I answered you the reason why does it slope from left to right. It slopes from left to right because of the inverse relation between the two commodities. One commodity is increasing, the other units of the commodity is decreasing, and so on and so forth. Second, I told you about the convex point of origin. It is because of the marginal rate of substitution. Then I told you about indifference curve never intersect each other. They can never intersect each other because as the indifference curve is moving to the right, it is becoming higher, the level of satisfaction. As it moves to the left, it becomes lower level of satisfaction. No indifference curves can be ever same. Therefore, it cannot intersect each other. It can neither touch x-axis nor it can touch y-axis. Why? Because none of the commodities are going to become zero. None of the units of the commodity are going to become zero. It is a combination. Therefore, it will neither touch x-axis nor y-axis, and they need not be parallel to each other. So these were the properties that you need to understand. Now let us move on to the next part, which is assumptions of indifference curve. Now every law, every concept that you study in microeconomics is based on certain assumptions. Let us see what are the assumptions of indifference curve. First assumption is a consumer is a rational consumer. When I say he is a rational consumer, try to understand that with this perspective, I am saying that he is trying to maximize his satisfaction. So, the consumer is trying to maximize his satisfaction. He is trying to gain higher level of satisfaction. Only then he will be called as a rational consumer. He is in his senses. Second is ordinal utility. Ordinal utility means here we do not assume that utility can be measured in numbers. We are trying to make combination of goods which are going to give us same level of satisfaction. So nowhere we are telling that we can measure it in numbers. Therefore, it is an ordinal concept. Third is about diminishing marginal rate of substitution. Now, I already told you the meaning of marginal rate of substitution. Marginal rate of substitution means when a consumer is giving up one product for the other product, giving up the units of a product for the other product, it is called as MRS or marginal rate of substitution. Now, what happens? As you see that the units of a product goes on increasing slowly and the units of the other product goes on decreasing fast. Because of this, we get a declining MRS. So the MRS values that you will get will be declining. Why? Because the substitution rate of product B, the product B is higher than the substitution rate of, than the increasing rate of product A. Therefore, you get MRS to be declining. Non-satiety. Non-satiety means you are not anywhere reaching the highest level of satisfaction. It is not the case anywhere in this curve it is mentioned, or anywhere it is mentioned in indifference curve that this is the highest level of satisfaction. So non-satiety. Consistency in selection. Whenever the consumer is selecting the combinations of different goods, he is consistent in selection. He is not stopping in between. He is going from a combination A, B, C, D, E. So all of this he is doing. The next part is about transitivity. In transitivity, the consumer is being consistent and he is moving from combination A to combination B to combination C and combination D and E and so on and so forth. So I can go ahead with the other combinations also. In this example, in this graph, we have seen only 5. Independent scale of preference. Like I told you, A, B, C, D, E, all of these combinations are giving him the same level of satisfaction. So the consumer is very much indifferent of which combination he goes for. A is equally same as B, as is equally same as D, is equally same as E, and so on and so forth. Whatever combinations he has made, all of these combinations are same. So he is independent of the scale of preference. Let me quickly revise to you. Okay, so indifference. So we spoke today about the ordinal approach. We spoke that utility cannot be measured in numbers, so cardinal approach is out of the way. So how do you measure utility? You take the ordinal approach. In ordinal approach, you have the very first concept, which is called as indifference curve. Indifference curve is a curve. Okay, let me emphasize on this word. It is a curve which shows different combination of goods giving me the same level of satisfaction. Now, when I say it is a combination of, it is a curve which is showing me the same level of satisfaction, combinations of same level of satisfaction. What is the difference between indifference map? Indifference map is a combination of indifference curves. So when I take many indifference curves together, I get an indifference map. To give you an example, if I talk about a particular firm, say for example I talk about Volkswagen. Volkswagen is an automobile company. Okay, so it is one company. But when I say automobile industry, in that I will have Volkswagen, I'll have Tata, I'll have Toyota, I'll have Maruti. So all of these, when I put together, it becomes automobile industry. How the difference between industry and firm is, similarly indifference curve is one curve, whereas indifference map is a combination of indifference curves. So when many indifference curves are come together, it makes an indifference map. So indifference map, we spoke that as we go higher, the level of satisfaction increases. So IC1 is less than IC2 is less than IC3, or you can say IC3 is greater than IC2, and that is greater than IC1. Okay, then we spoke about the graph and we spoke about the schedule. In schedule, we spoke about a concept which is marginal rate of substitution. It is a rate at which the consumer is giving up the units of a product for increasing the units of other product. So indifference curve is a combination of two products or commodities which are giving me the same level of satisfaction. Then we spoke about the properties. There are 6 properties which I already explained to you in detail, which are very simple, and we spoke about what are the assumptions. That the consumer should be a rational consumer. He wishes to maximize his satisfaction. Ordinal utility, we spoke about this cannot be measured in numbers. Diminishing marginal rate of substitution, the MRS is declining. There is no highest level of satisfaction. He is very consistent in selecting the products, and he is making different combinations of goods, and he is not different for the different combinations of goods. For him, all the combinations of goods are same. They are giving him the same level of satisfaction. So at this note, I end my session. I end my session. In the next class, we will see the further topic of microeconomics. Thank you.